Welcome to lesson 6 of the Acquiring Core ABAP Skills video, and here we are going to work with declaring data structures and then working with structured data in Eclipse. So if you want more theoretical explanation, please watch the video that will be displayed on the screen, and also link is in the description where I explain the slides for this code. And right here we are going to work with Eclipse. So we're going to create a global class. Go to one of your packages, right click on the package and click on ABAP class, give it a name and then give it a description. Structured data objects in ABAP SQL. Let's add our interface, which will help us to display our text on the console. if_oo_ADT_class run. So click on next. We are not assigning any request, any transport request. Click on finish. Alright, so let's now create the st_connection structure. So st_connection structure we're going to create here. So our local structure type. So we go inside the implementation part. The structure is created using the types keyword, and then we have begin of the variable for the structure is st_connection. And then the components, airport from ID, airport to ID, and carrier name, which has a type. So if you click on F3, you can see more about this data element. So this is domain. Okay, so let's go back. Afterwards, we create a structured variable that contains all these three fields. So if you want to create a variable, use the keyword data, right? And then you have our structured variable here, and then the type will reference this STY connection. So remember that we are creating structures for reusability. So if I want to create another structure that carries this component, I can just say connection 2 type st_connection. So reusability, you can always have those same structures. And so this is normal structure. So the next structure we can define is the nested structure, because in real applications, structures often contain other structures. So you can also use the keyword types. So types begin of st_connection nested, and then you pass in the components. So but now right here is another field called message. So this message is a structure because the type is a structured type. So if you click on F3, this is what we call global structures that is available in SAP. So this is a structure that can be reused. Everyone can reuse it. System structure. So when you have a structure inside the structure, then it gives you nested structure. So likewise, we can create our structure variable for the nested structures using data. We have connection nested, the type st_connection nested. So now that we have our two structures, we have connection nested and connection. So let's do simple structure access. If we want to pass data inside connection, how do we do it? I already showed you on the slides. So we use the dash operator. You write the variable name connection dash the component inside the structure. So if you go up, you see that this is the component airport from ID. Now you pass in the value equals ABC. Okay. Likewise, the second component inside ST connection is airport to ID. Connection dash airport, you pass in the value. Connection dash carrier name, you pass in the value. So each component behaves exactly like a standalone variable. So let's display the output. Control save, Control F2 to check, Control F3 to activate. Then you can just click on F8, or you can just run as ABAP application console. So right here you can see airport from ID is ABC, airport to ID is XYZ, carrier name is my airline. So this is how you work with structures. And of course, you can also use your debugger to see the content of the structures. So if you put a breakpoint here, you double click, or you right click on the line you want to put a breakpoint, click on toggle breakpoint, and if you run again, it should trigger the debugger mode. Click this button, select ABAP application console, okay, and then the debugger is open. So in the debugger table or menu, you have variables, you have breakpoints, you see all the breakpoints in the system. Then the variable section, you see all your variables. So in debugger mode, if you hover over any variable, you will see the content. So here you can see airport from ID ABC, airport to ID XYZ, carrier name is my airline. And you can also allow it to show here. You can see all the variables that we have, connection nested. You can double click it to make it at the top in the debugger menu like this. Okay, so let's click on F8 to end the debugger. Then you can click on the ABAP to go to the ABAP perspective. All right. So now we can as well access nested component in the same way. We can also access component inside nested structures using the dash notation, but now it's more like a chain notation. So we use the variable for nested structure, connection underscore nested, dash message. So you are pointing to message, and then dash msgty, because this SYMSG global structure have components or have fields inside them. So if you click on F3, you're able to see the fields. So these are the fields. So you can pass in values for these fields. And that's what we did here. Pass E to this, pass ABC to MSGID, and 123 to MSG N0. So likewise, you can also use an outright, and then pass in connection underscore nested to display this output on the console. So let me quickly show you how to fill the structures with value hash. So we are going to do exactly this same thing in a different approach, or with a different approach. So we can clear the connection. So we'll first clear our connection, and then write connection equals to value hash. So you then pass in the values to the component inside connection. So now airport from ID is equal to ABC, airport to ID is equal to XYZ, carrier name is equal to my airline. So you can see value hash here makes fill up a structure in a clean and readable way, so it's easier. So this is actually recommended for modern cloud ABAP approach. Likewise, if I want to do for the nested one is even better. So let's first clear connection nested, and then you now use that structure variable connection nested is equals to value hash. Then airport from ID, airport to ID, you pass in the values. Now for the nested structure inside this structure, now say message, you also use value hash to access the component inside message, and then pass in the value. Then carrier name is my airline, and that's that. So let me comment this out and print it at the end. Okay, connection nested. Let me also print out connection. So let's save, Ctrl S, Ctrl F2, syntax check, Ctrl F3 to activate. Let's clear this console. And now we execute, run as ABAP application console. Click on OK. We see have the debugger, the breakpoint on, so it stopped at this line. Okay, this was the first connection. So let's hit on F5. So here we are clearing the connection. So at this point you are seeing the values, the connections still have values in them. If we do F5, go to the next line, you see here hover over connection, you see that it's empty. If you double click to see it in the debugger, see that connection structure is empty. So when you now click on F5, now you see now that connection is no longer empty, now have the values in them. Likewise, connection nested, if you hover over it at this time, is empty. Let's double click to see it here. So if you are seeing connection nested and then you expand this, you see that inside the connection nested you have another structure inside. So I think this has default values. No, not default values. The values we passed earlier, we did not clear it, so we have not yet cleared it. So let's do F5. So with F5, you'll see that the values are cleared. Okay, see even message, the nested structure inside the connection nested is empty now. So if we do F5, we see now that this is populated. If you hover over connection nested, you see the values that we passed in. ABC is now in airport from ID, XYZ now in airport to ID, and carrier name is equals to my airline. Yeah, so that's how we debugged and worked through the procedures. Let's click on F8 to end this. So you have it on the console. This is for the nested structure, output from the nested structure. So the message structure inside our nested structure still has some fields that we did not pass values to. So you can as well do that. Okay. Yeah, and remember to avoid the pitfall that we explained in previous video. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and encourage me to make more ABAP Cloud videos. Thank you and see you in the next video.